Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, this next match will be the greatest matchup in history. So without further ado, let's get ready to rumble! In the red corner, with the height of 5'6" and the weight of 157 pounds, we have Vlad the Killer Putin. Now look, I told them not to call me the Killer, but I guess after this fight that name will fit perfectly. And in the blue corner, with a height of 6 feet tall, weighing in at 175 pounds, stiff as a board, we have Joseph R. Biden Jr., also known as the Sleeper. Hey, you know what, Vladdy? You know what? I'm laughing too. Let's get this match going. I've dealt with people before back in Scranton with like corn pop. I could definitely deal with you, Vladdy. I got all the strength. I can take you out easily. Yes, let's go, old man. Let's absolutely fight it out to the death. How about no cheating this time, Mr. President? Huh? All right, that's enough of the trash talk. Round one, begin. What's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 71st episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. So, this week was the all-important G7 meeting, where 7 of the world's biggest countries came together and talked about how they can all rule the world together. I mean, this stuff was absolutely so exciting. I mean, how would you like to watch for hours and hours of politicians walking around and talking? Or how about the joy watching world leaders sitting down and talking to each other? Or what about all the world leaders coming together to take a photo? And then guess what? They all walk away together. How exciting! Okay, I get it. The G7 summit was not very exciting. Actually, it was very, very boring. And no one really watched it, but it was also very important in some ways, as the world leaders got to meet the new president of the United States, Joe Biden, who had a very fun time at this event, as he was the life of the party, so to say. He made people laugh. But not on purpose, but by accident, as the gaffe machine for Joe Biden was in full swing. Now, the reality is that this stuff is just straight up sad, and we will talk about later how it could be detrimental to the United States on the world stage. The first gaffe from Joe Biden came when Prime Minister Boris Johnson was introducing people, and he mentioned every single person around the table, including the President of South Africa. However, Joe Biden thought that he missed the President of South Africa, so Joe Biden interrupted Boris Johnson and said, "What about the President of South Africa?" And Boris Johnson is so confused. Just look at this picture. Look at this man. This is the definition of confusion. So Boris Johnson is like, and the President of South Africa, as I said earlier. Then Joe Biden responds by saying, "Oh, he did?" And the whole room erupts in laughter. They are laughing at Joe Biden. They are laughing at the United States of America. This is not a good look for old Joe. Along with this, there was another moment where Joe Biden was literally just wandering around, and a reporter asked him, "How are your meetings going?" And Joe Biden's like, "Huh? What?" Then he answers very well after the question is stated again. Then all of a sudden, Jill Biden, the first lady, comes out of nowhere and is like, "Come on, Joe," almost like he's a toddler. And once again, just like before, everyone laughs at him. Now, these different gaffes may be okay in front of our allies like Great Britain, France, Germany, Japan, and also other countries. as many of these world leaders have said that they enjoyed Joe Biden's company and that he is a lot better than the evil orange man that is both evil and orange. And they claim that America is back, which just means that America is looking out for the world's interests and not America's interests like Trump did, which means that America will probably be sending millions of dollars over to Europe to help defend them from foreign attacks. The truth is, there is nothing that a politician from another country loves more than free money from the United States. However, this weakness is not good, and it could be detrimental to the United States when it comes to countries that weren't at the G7 summit, like China and Russia. This leads us to the main event, as Joe Biden was set to sit down with Vladimir Putin. The question is, will Joe Biden be strong enough to face off against Putin? Or will Vladimir Putin just walk over Joe Biden just like he has done for so many different politicians? Now, before we dive deeper into what they actually talked about and them actually meeting with each other, we have to talk about the history between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin. As in March of 2011, then Vice President Joe Biden met with Putin, who was being the Prime Minister at the time. Biden claimed that he looked Putin straight in the eyes and said, "Mr. Prime Minister, I'm looking into your eyes and I don't think you have a soul." And then Putin responded by saying, "Then we understand each other." Then in 2012, Putin became the president of Russia, and Joe Biden remained the vice president. And it was in this term where things got a little bit messy, as Russia invaded the Ukraine, which led to the annexation of Crimea, and the Russians joined the Syrian war in support of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, the opposite side that we were on. As time went on, Putin remained the president of Russia as he tried to create relations with America with Donald Trump as the leader. Then after the 2020 election, everything changed as Joe Biden was back. And now the two rivals were both in positions of power, as they were both presidents of their countries. Now, I call these two men rivals because in March, during an interview with George Stephanopoulos, Joe Biden claimed that Vladimir Putin is a killer, which angered Russia very much, as Russia demanded that Joe Biden apologize. And Putin's spokesman said he, meaning Biden, doesn't want to normalize relations with Russia. Then, Vladimir Putin challenged Joe Biden to a debate, and he wanted to do it live, with no breaks, no notes, just the two of them talking. Along with this, in that same exact meeting, Putin wished Joe Biden good health. Which of course Putin claimed that he didn't mean it sarcastically, but to me it seems a little bit fishy. So this killer comment is really what started off this rocky relationship. And Joe Biden's comments about Putin came up again during a press conference as a reporter asked if he still believes that Vladimir Putin is a killer. The response is shocking and also very confusing. Take a listen to this.
In a weekend interview, Vladimir Putin laughed at the suggestion that you had called him a killer. Is that still your belief, sir, that he is a killer? And I'll continue the trend if you don't mind of asking a second question. Do you believe if he does agree to cooperate, then what kind of a challenge do you find yourself in? How would you ever trust him? And if Ronald Reagan said trust but verify, what do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. Well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do. But look, when I was asked that question on air, I answered it honestly. But it's not much of I don't think it matters a whole lot in terms of this next meeting we're about to have.
One issue with this statement is that he walked back his killer comments, which shouldn't have happened because there is evidence that Vladimir Putin is killing his opponents. Many people that were close to Vladimir Putin were poisoned, ended up in the hospital, or even killed. And there is a person right now that tried to take over Vladimir Putin, and he is in prison on his deathbed because he was poisoned by Putin or the Russian government. Because of all of this, we should know that Vladimir Putin is of course a killer, but in multiple interviews, Putin will laugh and say that Russia has always been accused of many things. Putin won't even mention the man's name that he tried to poison and ended up putting in the hospital, who's on his deathbed in jail because the man doesn't care. Putin says something like, well, if he lives, he lives, and if he dies, he dies. No big deal. He'll be treated like everyone else. For the past decade, Putin has been leading like a dictator, which means that whatever he says goes. People fear him, and the people of Russia surprisingly respect him, either because they are scared that if they disagree with him, they will be arrested, or because the man has shown strength. The man doesn't take no for an answer, and it seems like he always has the upper hand. Putin has been doing these different meetings with United States presidents since Bill Clinton. He knows how they work. He knows how to get the upper hand. He knows that presidents are going to be nice to him because if they aren't, then Putin could start a war or do something to provoke one. Like, for example, the invading of Crimea. Obama did absolutely nothing to retaliate, and Putin got what he wanted. He understands that most times the United States presidents are weak, and he can take advantage of that. This is why I believe that it was a mistake on Joe Biden's part to take back his killer comments. If Joe Biden is going to be strong and tough in the face of Putin, then he needs to stand up to him and say, "Look, fat, you are a killer," and then list off the things that Vladimir Putin has done to his political opponents. However, Joe Biden didn't do this, and this could mean that Vladimir Putin could walk right all over old Joe, as it was reported that Joe Biden was going to confront Putin on the cyber attacks that took place this year that shut down a huge American pipeline. American intelligence believes that these attacks came from Russia, and more than likely they did. However, if Joe Biden says, "Hey, if you pull off another cyber attack again, then we're going to put sanctions on you," then if it actually happens and Russia does commit another cyber attack, then Joe Biden has to keep his word. If not, then once again, Putin can do what he wants, and he will attack again and again and again. This should not be acceptable for any president, and it should show us that we need a leader that is stronger and means what they say. The point is that I want Joe Biden to do a good job because he is representing America, and I want America to succeed as well. I'm saying this because I understand that there have been some people on social media, especially on Twitter, where people are saying that conservatives are defending Putin and want Joe Biden to lose or fail. This may be a possibility for some other stupid person, but for me, this is not my opinion at all. If I were to make a list of world leaders that I don't trust or like, first would be President Xi of China, and second would be Vladimir Putin. The man is a dictator, a person that tries to kill his opposition, and simply put, he is a very, very bad dude. I don't like Putin at all, and I want Joe Biden to win and show him who's boss. However, this situation reminds me a lot of sports. You always want your team to win, but sometimes you look at the matchups and you say, I'm not really sure about this one. This is the situation that we are in right now. We want Joe Biden to win, but logically and factually, we can see that the poor man doesn't know where he is, and he is showing weakness, and Putin can take advantage of that. So with that all set up, let's actually go to the moment right before these two men went into a separate room and talked. As the two men sit down, shake hands, and then the media is there taking pictures, and of course, asking questions. This got really hectic, as journalists were reportedly shoved by Russian security personnel. This made it very difficult to figure out if Joe Biden was answering the media's questions, or if he was just looking at all the excitement that was going on. The media was acting like a mob in this situation, as there were people yelling at each other to move, but no one was moving. It also looked like both Putin and Biden were enjoying this moment, as at one point Joe Biden leaned over and said something to Putin's translator and smiled. With this situation, you can see that this moment was very, very important, and many people in the American news media wanted to hear what Joe Biden had to say to Putin, or what Putin had to say to Joe Biden. Sadly, this didn't happen at this time, but the press will have their moment to shine later on. However, there was something else that was interesting while the media was trying to absolutely kill each other. A camera zoomed in on Joe Biden peering at notes that he had, and it looked like he was trying to hide them from Vladimir Putin. It wasn't shown what the card said, but it still makes you wonder what is on that card. It also makes you wonder why he would need a card right now when they aren't even in a separate room together to talk. They're in front of the media. Anyway, we know that Joe Biden has used cheat sheets in the past, as back in March, Joe Biden gave his first big press conference where a camera caught Joe Biden with notes with faces of the reporters on there along with their names and what company they worked for. Even though Joe Biden had these different note cards, he still messed up and said that America was ranked 85th globally in the quality of its infrastructure. He then later corrected himself by saying 13th. which is a very, very big jump. The point is, are all these cheat sheets showing us that Joe Biden is declining? Would Joe Biden actually know what he was talking about if he didn't have these different little note cards? Once again, this shows weakness, as he can't even remember what he wants to talk about with Putin. And this wasn't the first cheat sheet that he used. So make sure you stay tuned to find out where that next cheat sheet is. So after this hectic moment, both men stepped into a separate room and talked about a wide variety of things. Now, usually after a big meeting like this, the leaders would do a press conference together to talk about how they agreed on everything and how much they love each other and all that good stuff. However, for obvious reasons, Joe Biden, this didn't happen, as both men decided to do a press conference separately. Vladimir Putin's was inside somewhere, and in his press conference, he basically ripped on America for 45 minutes. A journalist would ask him a question about human rights, and then Putin would just back up and be like, well, what about America? They're breaking human rights. Look at all the police shootings and gun violence. This is all typical coming from the Russian president, as the Soviet Union did this exact same thing. We would call them out, and then they would call us out. And once again, it shows that Vladimir Putin doesn't care about what he says, or who he offends, because he can do what he wants. Biden's press conference, on the other hand, was held outside, where it got very hot, and Biden had to take off his suit coat. The heat might have gotten to Joe Biden's head, as he accidentally called Putin Donald Trump, which could mean that him and Vladimir Putin were talking about Donald Trump. We don't really know. However, we do know that Joe Biden talked to Vladimir Putin about infrastructure and how there were 16 critical infrastructure entities that Joe Biden didn't want Putin to attack. Joe Biden even gave Putin a list of 16 things, and it included water, oil pipelines, and other energy sectors that are important to America. This was a very bold move by Joe Biden, as he is giving a list of places to attack right to Vladimir Putin, a man that we should not trust, not even a little bit. What will stop Putin from doing another cyber attack on one of our infrastructure items on that list? Well, Joe Biden's stern voice, of course, as Joe Biden claimed after the meeting that he gave no threats to Putin. This is, of course, a very good thing, but what we need to remember is that Joe Biden is going to say, hey, Putin, don't do a cyber attack on these 16 entities, and he does, then there has to be a punishment. If we are drawing red lines in the sand and someone crosses them, we have to follow through. As hopefully Joe Biden will not be like his former boss, Obama, when it came to red lines in the sand. As if he says something, he has to mean it. As Joe Biden's press conference was winding down, Biden used another cheat sheet and said the quiet part out loud. As Joe Biden said, as usual, folks, they gave me a list of people that I'm going to call on to get questions from. First of all, who are they? And second of all, why can't Joe Biden just pick people from the crowd and talk to them like a regular human being? It is because Joe Biden is weak, and he is not used to getting questions that he doesn't like or think that are bad questions. This happened when Joe Biden was actually leaving the press conference with jacket in hand, sweat dripping down his face. A reporter screams a question at Joe Biden, talking about why Joe Biden is so confident that Vladimir Putin will change his behavior. And for the first time in his presidency, we see Joe Biden snap. Just take a listen to this. It's absolutely crazy.
Confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'm not confident in changing behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
If you don't understand that, you're in the wrong business.
Is the summit with China next?
Who we need to load quickly? Let's go quickly.
First of all, I would like to point out that Joe Biden attacked a female reporter, which I am excited to see Jim Acosta talk about over and over and over again. Along with listening to the second question, the reporter was right that Putin will not change his behavior, as Putin once again denied the cyber attacks. He denied the killing of political opposition. It was like what Joe Biden said to Vladimir Putin was in one ear and out the other. This can be dangerous as we look to the future. In the end, the meeting between Putin and Biden was nothing more than a big photo op that really didn't accomplish a lot for both the United States and Russia. However, the big question is, who won? Well, both men won in their own regards, as Joe Biden was able to come back home and say that he accomplished something great, as he was able to stare Putin straight in the eye and tell him not to attack us, or Biden will get angry. Of course, this was probably a lie, but the media has run with this idea that Joe Biden did great with Putin, and that he was so much better than the evil orange man that is both evil and orange. Putin can have a win as he is able to get free publicity. He was able to see how weak Joe Biden was with his note cards, and Putin has realized now that he can do whatever he wants with this president, as Russia and China are both poking at Joe Biden. As while the G7 summit was going on, both China and Russia were doing things with their military that should scare us all, as Russian ships have started to conduct the largest military exercise since the Cold War off the coast of Hawaii. This resulted in the United States Air Force to scramble F-22 stealth fighters just in case they got any closer. I will say it again, Putin doesn't care about anyone but himself. He knows what he's doing, and what he's doing could possibly lead to another Cold War, this time with China on their side, as over a dozen Chinese warplanes took off from China and triggered radar stations in Taiwan. Later that day, the Taiwanese Minister of National Defense came out and said that they detected 28 Chinese military planes. For both of these situations, we need a president that will not be walked all over, a president that draws red lines in the sand, and if a country crosses it, then they get punished. Right now, I fear that we as America don't have that. Trust me, I hope we do. And if China or Russia decide to do something stupid, that Biden and America will strike back. However, from what I have seen this week, I don't have much faith in Joe Biden to be a strong leader. And if we can learn anything from this episode, it is that dictators from any country cannot be trusted at all. They should be stood up to and defeated by strength, not weakness. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.